Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So now, until last class, we have discussed about a failure criteria which is linear, and we have said the sigma 1 is equals to sigma 3 n phi plus 2c square root of n phi. And we have showed that sigma 1 and sigma 3 are linear. It is very easy to see here. But we normally write this, we write minus, and this one also minus, and this equals to some function f, and this is 0. So we normally say if f is greater than 0, it fails, and if f is less than 0, it is safe or elastic. Okay. Now this we have discussed over the last 2 classes. Now the benefit of Mohr-Coulomb criteria, like this one is MC criteria. The benefit of this is that this is linear in nature, so it's very easy to apply and very easy to understand also. Again, the disadvantage is it is linear. So its advantage is also linear, disadvantage is also linear, because the rock normally doesn't behave so linearly. When we test in the laboratory, we find that whatever Mohr-Coulomb is telling us, it matches to some extent, but not a whole lot. See, the Mohr-Coulomb is telling us like this. So as this sigma 3 is increasing, so this will increase linearly, right? This is what it is telling us. This will increase linearly, like this. But actually, when in the laboratory for different rocks in triaxial, we find that this side is all right, but after some sigma 3, it tends to bend like that. Means we find some points which goes like something like this, not along this. So for higher sigma 3, for higher value of sigma 3, this basically overestimate. See, this is saying, Mohr-Coulomb is saying this area is safe, but actually it is not, and that is very dangerous, because you are designing something, some structure in underground, and you thought even if this trace come here, this will be safe, but actually it is not safe. So that's a very dangerous proposition. Okay. So since it's become like this nonlinear, many researchers, they try to develop different failure criteria. There is a nonlinear Mohr-Coulomb criteria also. Okay, but that many people didn't accept that, because it has many more parameters to handle. So finally, there is 2 persons. One name is Hook, another is Brown. 2 famous researchers, Hook and Brown criteria we call. He is Canadian and he is Australian. They have, after a lot of study, they have proposed a failure criteria which is non-linear in nature, and not only that, so there this thing is non-linear, number 1, And number two is this can also be used for rock mass. Can anybody tell me what is the difference between rock and rock mass? Who want to?
The rock mass is an in situ condition.
Rock mass is what?
So the in situ condition rock is termed as rock mass.
Okay. Anybody else? What is rock mass and what is rock? Should I? Yeah. Tell me. Okay. Voice is not coming so nicely. Okay. Let me give you an example. Okay. I'm going to draw something, and you have to tell me whether it is rock or rock mass. Okay. There are similar picture is available in the net also. You can see. Let's say this is my representative area. Next time I will ask all of you, when you go somewhere, mostly in the mountain area or any place where, let's say, you are passing through or driving through, and in the side you are seeing a exposed rock surface. Let's say you're going by the road and there is exposed rock surface, that may be a slope or anything. You look at this very carefully. Okay, if possible to stop the car, you stop it and go near to the rock. Okay, and see it very carefully. Okay, now I'm going to draw something which you will probably see there. Okay, let's say this is my representative area where you are looking at, and there is a discontinuity somewhere around here and somewhere around here. Now what happened to this rectangular, this blue color box? Is it rock or rock mass? This is your discontinuity. But what we are looking at, what we are interested in, only this area, that blue color rectangle. So you will call it rock or rock mass? Anybody? This blue color rectangular, this is the joint or fractures. Outside your representative area, we call it REV, representative equivalent volume. But in this case, let's say area. What is it? Okay. Now this we will call rock. Now let's say I have like this. Now it is rock or rock mass? This blue color rectangular area. I thought there are some students out there. What is there? Okay. So this now we will call as a rock mass. Okay. Now if another set of joint comes like this, or a discontinuity come like this, see, mind that your representative area or volume only this much, because when you are seeing that, you are seeing only this much. This is still rock mass, this inside everything together. But if I take a very small part here, let's say for my coring and testing in the laboratory, these will be rock, or we call intact rock. But this blue color is rock mass. Now, Mohr Coulomb criteria is applicable here, not in this blue color box. Okay, then you need to have equivalent cohesion and equivalent friction angle. Okay. Not of this rock, you can apply for the entire this blue color box. I can make it more complicated. This can be more jointed like this, you know, maybe 3 sets of joint. It is going like that. Okay. Now, let's say you have to make a tunnel here. Okay. So that this one will become tunnel now. Now, how many of you will make a tunnel like this in a rock mass? Okay. So you see, this small area still a rock, but when you consider this representative volume or area, this is rock mass. Okay. So the Mohr Coulomb criteria will be applied in this rock, but not in this entire rock mass. That you have to understand. So that's why the Hook and Brown criteria, what I'm going to discuss now, is a nonlinear criteria, and it applies to rock mass for the entire this blue color box. So if I have to analyze whether this tunnel will be stable, I cannot consider the Mohr Coulomb. I have to now consider this Hook and Brown. Now, the Hook and Brown criteria has started, or the first version was given in 1980, and the last version also it has given, something has come in 2018, but it is same as 2002, so it didn't change though. There is one 2018 version, but it remains same as 2002, so we can use that. And the formula is, you just now note the formula, this will be explained. So you can see now, this is basically below 1. A value of A is less than 1. It will never go close to 1 also. It is more or less 0.5 if it is an intact rock, and for any other it will be little more than 0.5. So it's like a square root. Okay. Now you can see this formula we will be using for this entire blue blocks for the rock mass. Now here this A, MB and S, these three, what we call Hooke-Brown parameters. Okay, sigma Ci you already know, I discussed yesterday or before, that this is the uniaxial compressive strength of intact rock. This is of the intact. What you test in the laboratory. Sigma 3 is already you know what it is. MBSA are the parameter. So this is the formula. Now let me give you the formula of these three. This is written like this: exponential. I hope you know what is GSI already. 100 by 28 minus, I think, 14D, and S is, let me just check whether I'm writing here. and this is exponential GSI minus 100 by 9 minus 3D. I'll tell you what is D, you just write it down. Half plus 1/6 exponential minus GSI by 15 minus exponential minus 20 by 3. Okay, there's too many equations for you. Now you can see, you already know what is GSI. Who knows what is the full form of GSI? What is the full form of GSI? Anybody? Do you know what is the full form of GSI? There is a company also with this name, Geological Survey of India.
Survey of India, yeah.
But in rock mechanics, what is the full form of GSI?
I don't know.
We do not know. Okay. It's called Geological Strength Index. You know what is RMR?
Yes, sir.
It is the next version of that. Okay. It's called GSI, Geological Strength Index. It is same like RMR. You can also use RMR. Okay. So it is in the book. You can replace it. This GSI by RMR also, if you like. Okay. So it ranges between 0 to 100. It ranges between 0 to 100. Same RMR and GSI, more or less same. GSI is much easy to calculate. The RMR has 5 parameters, then there is an additional parameter also orientation based, 6th parameter, which is the adjusted RMR. But GSI has just as a chart, you can see in the book, it's just the next version, okay, of this. It is given in 1997 or 1998. It's a very recent development. So this is the formula. Now GSI and RMR, as you will know, can you tell me in one line what is the meaning of that RMR? Anybody? Just if I ask, answer in one line the meaning of RMR. Who is the brave person who can answer that?
I
I
think
can expand, sir. Rock mass
Yeah.
classification.
No, do not tell me the full name. What is the meaning?
it is basically to classify the. It is basically to communicate that the rock is good or not by only giving some number. I think so.
Okay, very good. I think you're very close. Anybody else? Who else?
Quality of rock.
Quality of rock. Very good. Quality of rock. Okay. You can also think of it is quantification of geology. See, you are now studying geology, right? Now, if a geologist has to explain the condition of rock, okay, see, RMR has joints, strength, joint condition, joint spacing, joint meaning any discontinuity. Then it has water condition. Now, if all these things is nothing but the what is existing in that local area or that area where you are investigating, that means the local geology, you can say. Now, if a geologist has to explain it, he will explain by half a page that this is a joint, formed in some Precambrian area time, and then this is how the tension crack has developed. then water may have been there, then it has come. So he will write many things, even with the condition also. So this is very useful to us, but in an engineering sense, it doesn't make any sense to us, because we will not be able to use this in any purpose. Rather, if somebody say, you know what, this area between 0 to 100, I can put a number like 40. Now, let's say you have a friend in Australia and you are working in some tunnel area, in tunneling or in mines or whatever, or even in the slope. And you are explaining him and you are saying, I am working in an area where the GSI is 40 or RMR is 40. Then you see your friend sitting in Australia will understand what kind of rock you are going through. You do not have to explain anything. So this is the beauty of when you can quantify such an abstract thing into some number and people will understand it, and we can also use it in a mathematical form. Okay. So if this is the case, so RMR and GSI we are using in this fashion, it is directly used by this Hook and Brown into their equation. Okay, so we are quantifying the geology of that local area where you want to build a tunnel. Okay, and this is, you are already putting a number, and Hook and Brown say, if you can give me that number, I can use it in this equation. So I can write this GSI or RMR is my geology. Okay. Now you see in MB equation, which is there also, there is a something called MI. What I means for the intact rock. That is the value of MB for intact rock. Now for intact rock, we normally say GSI is 100. Okay, it is the maximum value. So you can see this will become 0. So exponential 0 is 1. So MB is equals to MI. Now this one is for the intact rock, same MB value for the intact part of the rock, and this depends on rock type, like whether it is a sandstone, shale, granite, basalt, chalk, slate, you know, what type of rock, whether it's a igneous, metamorphic. So this value is also given by Hook and Brown. And if you are working in a rock with a rock which you do not know, we can test it in the lab and find out this value of MI for that particular rock. So that is the normal way we do. So this MI tells us about the rock type. Okay. Here you can see the D, also here is D. Now this is what we call disturbance factor. Now disturbance by whom? Disturbance by blasting. Okay, when we blast, basically that particular rock broken down where you have blasted or put your explosive, but the nearby area is also get disturbed. If there is a crack, it will extend, or a new crack may also form because of that vibration. So based on the blasting and its, the intensity, this value is given between 0 and 1. 1 means heavily affected and 0 means no effect. That means machine is cutting the rock. There is no blasting is happening. Like tunnel boring machine when you do, or in underground we do continuous miner for cutting the coal, or another thing called road header. There is no blasting. It's just a continuously we cut the rock or the coal. So this is called disturbance factor. So this is coming directly from blasting, okay, or any other reason the disturbance can happen. So you see now in this equation, what we have? We have geology, we have rock type, we have blasting. Sigma Ci is the strength of the intact rock. So we have strength. Okay. And this sigma 3 is nothing but the confinement. Or we can also say this relates to in situ stress. Because in situ stress, this is the horizontal stress which will give us the confinement. So we have confinement stress or the in situ here. We have geology, we have rock type, in which rock we are working, and we also have strength here. So this is strength, this is in situ stress, and here we have geology in all these three and also rock type. So you can see within a single equation, the Hook and Brown could put so many information, and that's why this particular equation is very, very popular these days. And it is directly applicable to rock mass, which we see in the field. Okay, it is directly applicable there. So that's why Hook and Brown equation is very popular. Okay, and it also have blasting effect if there is. So you can note it down. It has geology, it has rock type, it has in situ stress, it has strength of the rock, and it also have disturbance due to blasting. Everything put into a single equation. And do you know how many years it took to build this equation? Can you even guess? See, I already gave you the first equation is 1980, but they have started at least 10 years before. So if you even consider since 1970, so 30 and 20, so almost 50 years to build a equation like this. Okay, so it's not so easy that we can get something so quickly. And now all over the world, the geotechnical or geomechanics people or rock mechanics people are using this equation. Okay, I normally use this equation very heavily. Okay, this is a very, because we have to work with the rock mass. So this is one of the equation. There are many other equations given in the book, but this is the one of the best. Okay. Now, any question here? So it is same as we can write same as the Mohr Coulomb we have written, something like F is equals to sigma 1 minus sigma 3 minus sigma Ci mb sigma 3 by sigma Ci plus S power A. Okay, so and this equals to 0. Similarly, if F is greater than 0, it fails, and if F is less, it fails. And if F is less than 0, it stays elastic. So here you can see now, that means this part is my strength. This is the strength part and this is the stress part. So you see the stress minus strength, if this is greater than 0, that means stress is more than the strength. So it will fail. Okay. So this is the strength part which I have given in that blue box. That is the strength of the rock. And in the strength, you can see sigma 3 is there in 2 places. And this is depending on geology, its rock type, and also the strength is the basic strength or the strength of the intact rock is there. Okay. Now if I plot it, how does it look? Since it's a non-linear, sigma 3, sigma 1. So it will go something like this. This is that equation. Okay. As the sigma 3 increases, this will take a form like this. Okay. Now this is in the positive side, so compressional side. Now if you go in the this side, this will come something like this. This is in the tension side, okay, minus sigma 3 side. So you see here the tensile strength is very low, and this is basically UTS or something you can say. It's not U is there. I can delete that because it's not uniaxial. I can write it sigma T. Let's say tensile strength. Now this tensile strength is pretty low here. One of the reason is this is considering the rock mass. So the joint may open because of the tension. So it's very easy to break a jointed rock mass by tension. Okay, that's why it is pretty low. Now it will also depend on the RMR or GSI, and this is for low GSI, and for higher GSI it will be this. This may be GSI equals to, if it is 80, this may be GSI equals to 30 or so. Okay. So it will be in the lower side. Okay. So the curve is like this. Okay. And this one is still the, we will consider this as sigma CM, we call it. Uniaxial compressive strength of rock mass. You see here I am not using I am using M. Okay, sigma CM. So it is the uniaxial compressive strength of rock mass. Now if I put this one 0 in this equation, so that is the point I'm trying to find out this. So if I put that 0, what I get? I get sigma 1 that I'm replacing by sigma Cm. Then it will be 0 minus sigma Ci. This one will be 0 plus S power A. And this is 0. In other words, sigma Cm will be sigma Ci into S power A. Okay. Now, if you are to calculate, what is the value of this S power A? See, if you quickly can calculate, let's say I give you a quick problem. Just it's a very easy calculation. GSI is equals to, let's say, 60. Okay. If GSI is 60, what is the value of AS and what is the value of A? Okay, assume D equals to 0. If you assume D equals to 0, can anybody tell me what is the value of S and what is the value of A? Very quickly. Should I give you the formula? This is the S, D0. So GSI is 60 minus 100 divided by 9, and you take the exponential of that. What you will get? Anybody has a calculator with you? You put GSI is 60. Here it will be, S will be equals to exponential minus 40 by 9. This, how much is this? And A will be half plus 1/6 exponential minus 60 by, what was that, 15, minus exponential minus 20 by 3. These two, how much is? Just quickly calculate and tell me the value. Anybody calculating that?
So please show the white screen.
What is the value of S? Or you have to give me S power A, completely S power A. You have to give me S power A. Please.
Latif Sarfraz, are you calculating?
Everybody is sleeping, looks like. So e to the power minus 4.44. If you do e power,
The A is 0.5 approx.
no, it will be more than that. It may be 0.502 or 6, I think, something
Yes,
like
so
that.
50284. So 0.50284.
Okay. And whatever S is
Mr.
exponential.
Vikas, can you tell me the value of S? Nalli Vikas.
S is 0.01174.
0.1174.
Yes, sir.
Now you do the power 0.00 or 0.0.
0.01174.
Okay.
Is correct.
So you make the square root of that, more or less, to the power A. So how much you get here? You will be surprised to see. That is what I'm telling you. Okay, that's why I'm asking you to calculate. So this one will be just square root of this. You do then also
0.107.
0.107, sir.
107. That means sigma Cm, you can see here, about 10% of sigma Ci. Okay. What is sigma Ci? The intact value. So now you see what I am talking also. Now what I am talking here is, see this one. If this sigma Ci of this is, let's say, 100 MPa, you have tested in the lab, you found this is 100 MPa, this intact part. But when you consider all these joints where the RMR or GSI is about 60, and let me tell you, this 60 is not bad, 60 is good, means it's a good type of rock we normally consider. Now even if it is 60, based on this equation, it is showing me the strength of this blue box will be, the strength of this sigma Cm will be about 100 MPa, sorry, about 10 MPa, which is reduction of 90% just in the presence of these joints where GSI is 60. So you can see 90% strength of the rock is gone if your GSI or RMR is 60. So you must be very careful when there is a joint or fractures in a rock mass and your boss has asked you to make a tunnel over there. You have to properly calculate the values, what will be the strength, what you can expect. Okay. Now, definitely this looks very, drastic reduction. And so later on another equation has been given. So I'm not giving you here, it is in the book. But it is not so much reduction. But For GSI 60, it is more or less 25% of the intact port. So this equation has been modified in a different way, but it is still, it's a huge reduction, about 75% reduction. That is what they are doing. So whatever you test in the laboratory, that should not be the final strength. So we have to consider the rock mass property, because we have to build a tunnel in the field, not in the lab. Okay, so we cannot take the value from the lab only, but this is a very good indicator. The lab is a very good indicator, and then you have to combine with JSA. Now there is a small software also given by a company called, you can see that company, it's called Rock Science from Canada, and they have given a software called Rock Lab. I think Rock Lab they call it, where if you know the GSI value, if you know the D, if you know sigma CI and all these things, then they will just convert it for you. What will be the value for the rock mass? Even they will give you the value of equivalent value for phi and C. What will be the value for phi and C in the field condition? That means with the rock mass. Okay. Now, how do we calculate that? I think I'm going to tell you this. There is another part, is sigma Tm. What will be the field or the rock mass tensile strength? You have to put this is 0, and then you have to solve this equation. This is a nonlinear equation. Now, instead, if we consider this is a biaxial stress field, that means sigma 1 and sigma 3 are same, then we can estimate this sigma 3, and this sigma 3 will be coming here, and we can give it like sigma Tm. This is assuming sigma 1 and sigma 3 are same. This become S sigma Ci by M. MB, and you can see this is also will be very, very low, because S value is very low, you have calculated. So this is also extremely low, as I showed you in the graph also. See, this side is pretty low. This is that what is the sigma Tm, and this is, you can use this formula to calculate the rock mass tensile strength. Now the question comes, can I interchange these two failure criteria? That means you now know the Mohr-Coulomb and you now know the Hook-and-Brown. Now, can we interchange these two formula? Question is yes, we can. From Hook-and-Brown, we can calculate the equivalent Mohr-Coulomb criteria like C and phi. Now, how we are going to do that? It is very easy. What you have to do is compare these two equations. Okay. Now, comparison is like this. So the first equation, Mohr-Coulomb, let me write. Mohr-Coulomb is sigma 1 minus sigma 3 sigma 3 n phi minus 2c square root of n phi is 0. This is one equation. And for Hook-and-Brown, we are writing sigma 1 minus sigma 3 minus sigma Ci mb sigma 3 sigma Ci plus s power a. Now, these are the two equations we know. what we are trying to say here is that one is like this and another maybe will go like that. We don't know. It may be going like this. Okay, this is MC and this is Oak and Brown. Now, for a given sigma 3, what we are going to do is, we are saying I will draw a tangent to this car, and wherever it touches, this will be my CM, that means rock mass, not CM, sorry, this will be my sigma CM, okay, wherever it touches, okay, and this angle, if this is psi, then tan psi will be my n phi m. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? N phi will be slope of that. So phi m, I'm talking about phi m is the variable here. So if I have to find this, I have to take a derivative of this to find the slope. So if I take a derivative d sigma 1 by d sigma 3 of this one, so what is the derivative? Can anyone tell me? 1 plus a mb sigma 3 by sigma ci plus s power a minus 1, right? This is the derivative of this. Now this is the slope. If I take the derivative of this is nothing but my n phi. Okay. Now if this is the n phi, we know what is n phi. 1 plus sine phi m by 1 minus sine phi m. So from here we'll be able to calculate the phi m. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm calculating the derivative of this, so I got this slope. Now that is my n phi, okay, and that is nothing but 1 plus sine phi m minus 1 minus sine phi m. So that this is everything is known to me. So I will be able to calculate phi m. So that is my equivalent friction angle, okay, of that entire rock mass. The equivalent phi m I am trying to calculate. Now once you know this n phi, I am sure you will be able to calculate this, okay, because the slope is now known. You already know the equation here, that it will follow this equation. So this is known now. Now what do you have to calculate? This part. So from using that Mohr Coulomb criteria now, you will be able to calculate it. I'm sure you will be able to calculate that. Okay, or should I write? It is in the book, it is given. The formulas are, everything are given. So you can find that out. Okay. I'm not writing it, I'm keeping it for you so that at least you derive that, and to calculate sigma cm. When you know the sigma cm, then when you know this sigma cm, then you know the formula how to calculate cm. Sigma cm is equals to 2 cm cos phi m by 1 minus sin phi m, or you can write 2 cm by square root of n phi m. Okay. So this is already known. So from here you can find out the CM. So this is how we can convert the rock mass properties of Moore and Coulomb criteria from the Hook and Brown criteria. And this is what this rock science and all this they are doing it, although they use some another equation, but it is the same concept is the same. Okay, they are converting for a given sigma 3. For a given sigma 3, they see everything is for a given sigma 3. You have to know what is the sigma 3 and where that slope, because you are seeing here the slope is changing with slope will change with sigma 3. Okay, so for a given sigma 3, you will be able to calculate n phi m, and from n phi m, if you know this slope is known, then you will be able to know this height or the intercept from this equation, and once you know this, then you will be able to calculate this CM. So I hope there is no confusion here. This is how the interchanging between two criteria.